Top 10 times scientists went too far. The mad scientist, a common cultural stereotype, is personified by a frazzled, haired, white-robed forerunner of technology misuse and calculations that went wrong. But it's all too true that crazy, misinformed, or malicious scientists have wreaked havoc on the history of scientific inquiry. In this video, we take a look at 10 must-know insane scientists who went a little too far with their studies, such as the German doctor who investigated his own heart and the serial dog head transplanter from Russia. Number 10. Tropy Lysenko. We may all be familiar with Rasputin, the so-called Mad Monk of Russia, and his exploits, but the nation's food supply was subjected to unusual tests and studies because of a mad scientist who promoted absurd theories of agro-science and applied botany. Such statements, according to expert analysts, are botanically akin to docking a dog's tail and expecting to have offspring with short tails. Individual plants may grow more resilient through acclimation, but it is obvious that the predictions that crops would carry the qualities and prevent famine never materialized. When crops failed to produce, Lysenko's theories that such qualities might be past flew in the face of all knowledge and were decisively refuted by science. Lysenko was Joseph Stalin's favorite in the dubious fusion of science and politics because he pursued socialist genetics in battle against Mendelian genetics, a movement known as Lysenkoism. Even worse, under the Stalin administration, scientists who defended conventional biological truth were persecuted, silenced, and in many cases executed. This amounted to a horrific pogrom against honest biologists at the hands of lethally imposed pseudoscience. Number 9. William Buckland. William Buckland, the quintessential oddball, offers a classic example of a mad scientist. The aim of this British scientist to sample, by eating, every kind of animal on Earth was an extremely unusual and obsessive approach for him to demonstrate his devotion to the study of life. The eccentric professor had a passion for education and became a non sequitur lecturer who roared and brandished a hyena skull near the faces of his students. Buckland brought a plethora of exotic species to British soil and kept primates, birds of prey, reptiles, and a hyena under his care, which may be expected of a member of such a club. In his lifespan, Buckland consumed as many animals as he could, from the repulsive and potentially pathogen-ridden, like a bluebottle fly, to the peculiar, such moles and sea slugs, to the shockingly cruel, like allegedly consuming puppy flesh. Number 8. Werner Otto Theodore Forcemon. Werner Forcemon, August 29, 1904, June 1, 1979, a German medical scientist who was born in Berlin, is likely the only person who can legitimately be said to have put their whole heart, literally, into their job. He invented cardiac catheterization, or, more accurately, he inserted his heart into it by inserting a catheter through his antecubital vein that measured somewhat more than 25 inches long. Once the initial incision had been made, the device could be pushed down the veins inside because it was smooth and thin. Given the inconvenience of self-operation and the possibility of experiencing a medical emergency while doing so and being unable to get help, performing such a groundbreaking technique on his own body was a high-risk decision. Number 7. Vladimir Demikov. There may be a connection between scientists' insanity and their unrestrained achievements in some fields. Vladimir Demikov was a researcher with questionable morals and strange motivations who was born in Russia in 1916. Despite this, he rose to prominence as a paradigm-shifting heart transplant pioneer and a truly obsessed crazy scientist who created two-headed canines with a short lifespan. At the age of 21, in 1937, Demikov created the first cardiac assist device. He later performed the first coronary bypass, auxiliary heart transplant, and heart and lung transplant. However, his reputation for life-saving medical ingenuity was tarnished by odd experiments involving the creation of two-headed canines by grafting one dog's head onto another dog. Demikov performed this method a startling 20 times out of his obsession with this particular experiment. He maintained his cruel experiments even after a Soviet Ministry of Health review panel ruled his work unethical and ordered him to stop performing head transplants. Number 6. Jose Delgado. It's possible that using a fighting bull as a test subject for mind control experiments is the most Spanish method to earn a reputation as a mad scientist. That is exactly what Spanish mad scientist José Delgado, August 8, 1915, September 15, 2011, did in 1963 when he conducted odd experiments, one of which involved the animal at the center of the contentious Spanish bullfighting ritual. Delgado, a Madrid University graduate, used electrode implants at Yale University to experiment with radio frequency behavior modification in animals. After implanting the gadget in a bull, he used it to stop the enraged animal's charge. Delgado worked to create mind control techniques that would be effective on humans, going beyond his work with primates in the remote, controlled bull. Number 5. Stubbins Firth. While it is acceptable for mad scientists to test and demonstrate the effectiveness of remedies on themselves, one researcher took being a guinea pig to an all-new level of madness. An American doctor in training at the University of Pennsylvania named Stubbins Firth, 1784-1820, dedicated his life to researching yellow fever, which had killed almost 10% of Philadelphia's populace. Firth came up with the hypothesis that yellow fever was an affliction brought on by heat and stress rather than an infection after noticing a seasonal decrease in deaths from the sickness. Later studies revealed that yellow fever is communicable. All that is required for transmission is direct blood transmission via a mosquito bite. Given that reality, despite the rigors of his studies, Firth did not pass away from yellow fever. Number 4. Robert G. Heath. The urge to evaluate both aspects of human experience, pleasure and pain, has led to some unsettling and absurd experiments in this alluring field of study for the mad scientist. Pleasure and pain may be closely related. Robert G. Heath, an American psychiatrist, was an unethical mad scientist who conducted experiments in which he used electrodes to stimulate receptors, controlling subjects' perceptions of pleasure and pain. His credentials were remarkable since he founded the Tulane University Department of Psychiatry and Neurology in New Orleans and holds degrees in both psychology and neurology. Number 3. Ivanov Ilya Ivanovich. One risk-taking researcher from the Soviet Union was prepared to go to extreme lengths to bring the concept of the ape, man, an old cinematic cliché, to life. Ilya Ivanovich Ivanov, a mad scientist from the Soviet Union, was interested in studying biological diversity and was a supporter of zoology, captive breeding, and conservation. He was a dishonest and tenacious researcher whose sole objective was to cross a human with a chimpanzee. Ivanov was first eager to try to inseminate an unaware human female with chimpanzee sperm since he was not constrained by ethical issues. Ivanov understood that he would require willing participants. He requested government support for the hybrid project. Ivanov originally attempted to inseminate female chimpanzees with human sperm in the hopes of getting them pregnant with a hybrid kid once he started working on trying to develop the hybrid. Number 2. Harry Harlow. A researcher might covertly skirt the ethical boundaries of science to progress their work. However, one deranged doctor who damaged the lives of numerous monkeys through dubious and harsh experiments was strangely icy and unafraid to discuss his work. Harry Harlow, an American psychologist, is renowned for his strange experiments on monkeys that mixed unethical and unethical methods of investigation with less than scientific research concerns. Harlow, a scientist at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, isolated young monkeys from their mothers for a period of 1 to 2 years at a time. Harlow contrasted the psychology and conduct of children who had a genuine mother as opposed to those who had simply a cotton doll as a mother. Number 1. Aldini Giovanni. The fear of the dead returning to Earth is a common superstition in Italy, which has prompted the development of complex rites to ward against such events. And meeting a man who seemed to do precisely that, albeit by scientific means, would not have made those determined to stop the return of the dead or other undead too happy. Giovanni Aldini, an Italian mad scientist renowned for his weird and macabre electrical experiments on corpses, was born in Bologna and received official recognition and decorations. Aldini activated corpses and made them appear to return to life, becoming animated in different parts depending on where shocks were delivered, in horrifying testing with human and animal remains. This is end of this video. Do you feel it helpful? Make sure to give your valuable response in our comment section below and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos.